The rainbow is the tears of love between the sky and the earth, and the creation of life that comes from that. You have to study your craft first intimately. You have to understand colour, the history of colour. You have to understand drawing in its wider sense, from classical drawing to contemporary abstract drawing. You have to study how you merge ancient concepts into a visual language. And in many occasions, I create my own imagery, like the concept of te kore I show as the black moon or the black sun. Te kore is a concept of infinity, which is something beyond human imagination. You become aware of that when you lie outside under a starry sky and you look at the millions and millions of stars that exist there, and you see the sun rising and the moon come up, and a whole range of things to do with nature. The way nature itself evolves is the same way that humans have to evolve on this planet. Well, the colonial land wars began in my hometown of Waitara, and we were raised knowing the whole history of what happened there, even the tribal wars and everything else. We learnt the symbolism and all the different things that made us Maori. So we lived our culture rather than read about it in stories. We heard about it constantly through storytelling from the elders. We have to understand that a lot of the times, like when we talk about the Sky Father and the Earth Mother, they're not really men and women. They're personifications of the ideology of how the sky looks after the earth, and without the earth, the sky is nothing, because they're bound together. So when a man and a woman, or a mother and a father come together, they have to look after their children in the same way that the earth itself sustains us as living creatures on this planet. Some of these paintings here, even this one here, is a concept of they're called Children of the Sky Father, Ranginui. They're really symbols of all the things that happen in the sky and the things that happen in the earth. So things like our mountain Taranaki and the ancestral mountains of all of the tribes tell of the connections, or the family connections, or whakapapa that they have towards their land. So when you talk about whenua, you talk about the placenta of our ancestors that's buried in the land, and we have to learn to look after that and respect it. The placenta of the land, though, has now moved to the actual people who have been buried in the land, and we have to protect them and their spirits. So that's why I have paintings that talk about the spirits of our ancestors, because we have two sides to our life. We have a physical side and a spiritual side, and during the karanga and a lot of speech you see on formal maraes, the physical and the spiritual side are often meet, and they bind together, and that decides the completeness of who we are as a people. So we must retain that part of our culture so that we remain complete and the confident people you see Maori to be on the international arena. Motu Kairangi is one of the ancient histories of this country, belonging to the Ngai Tara people. Tara himself, the leader of Ngai Tara, was a grandson of Rongoweiro, who was the matriarch of my tribe, Te Atiawa, but Rongoweiro was actually Kāhui Maunga, and the Kāhui Maunga people were the people who were here before the arrival of the canoes, and you'll find Kāhui Maunga related to basically all the Maori tribes of New Zealand. We need to understand that our history is much longer than the arrival of the 7 canoes. That's colonial history. Oral history says we have been here forever. That ancestral house is actually a whare tupuna, and my mountain Taranaki is my whare tupuna, but you find all the whare tupuna are actually shaped like a mountain, whether for pragmatic reasons or building or whatever. But when you go inside the house, from the very moment you approach the house, it has its own ancestral name. When you walk in the door, there's something there, quite often a female figure called Hine Nui Te Pō. Hine Nui Te Pō is not evil, that's the kuia who protects the spirit world, who welcomes your spirit into that world. And when you go inside of that ancestral house, it tells you your whole history, the history of the land, the history of the people, and it makes you feel complete. It's who we are. As Maori, we need to remain strong. We need to feel very proud of who we are as a people. We need to accept that we are intermarried now and we are part of the global world. But our ancestors are always within ourselves. We carry our ancestral knowledge and our ancestral being within ourselves. We are the living ancestors. Art is a vision for the future. The creative process is how we survive into the future, regardless of what boundaries are placed on us. We have to use our own creative thinking to unite and continue the survival of the human race. It has to continue survival as free thinkers, free action, and a caring and loving race of people who support each other. Boundaries separate you from your families. We see that today a lot. From your families, from your loved ones, from your friends. It's a difficult world today. And in many ways it's going to be resolved in the future, because you cannot tie human beings down without a revolution of some sort. They will rebel, and that concerns me for my grandchildren. It will be a positive future if we learn to accept and take the best of all the other cultures of the world and combine them into a better world. But when one group tries to dominate our thinking or the way they want us to be in the future, then that's the danger for Maoridom. So Maoris need to remain strong and have a clear head on who we are and why we call this land of our ancestors.